Okay, folks. I think that must be 10 minutes or so. Yeah. Anyway, I will just let you know a few things. We are going to make this a fortnightly event. For those of you overseas, fortnight means every 2 weeks. So we're going to, rather than the monthly as we had in the black box, we're just going to try and ramp it up a bit. So we will reveal the theme at the end of this evening. So very exciting. Just to let you know, if you're not already, we are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And we would urge you to follow us at least on one of those, and we'll keep you up to date with all the developments. We'll let you know when, what our next event is, what our next theme is, when it's going to be, etc., etc. And the links to register for the events, etc., are all on our website, which is 10by9.com, of course. And if you go to the website, you'll see all the information you need about 10by9, more information than you'll ever need about 10by9. And you'll also see our podcasts. And I think we have now 146 podcasts up there. And we also, very excitingly, have a YouTube channel. And we will be putting the stories from this evening up on the YouTube channel as soon as I get around to it, which hopefully by the weekend. We chunk them up because YouTube limits how much video you can upload. If you're interested in our first 10by9 Zoom event, which was 2 weeks ago, that's already up on YouTube. So you can watch the stories and the speakers, and we had an amazing night. We are always looking for new storytellers, and so get in touch with us. Again, through the website is the best way. We never charge, as you know, but if anybody wants to kind of help out, cover our costs and our overheads, we have a Patreon page, so you can donate. And I'd like to say a big thank you to Brian and Catherine McGuire and Isolde Johnson, who signed up after our last 10by9 on Zoom. So there's never any pressure, by the way. That's just, if you have it, fine. If you don't, doesn't matter. I'm going to try to call in Podrick, see if he's Belfast calling for Mana.
Yes, Ryomani, your long day. I'm not sure if my Wi-Fi is stable or not. Is this coming through?
Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely. Super. Well, nice to see you all. Thanks very much for being along for this Zoom by 9. It's been great. We're looking forward to some more brilliant stories. And our next story coming up is from Linda Faith Kelly. And so, Linda, we're looking forward to having your story. Take it away there, Linda.
Okay. I take it you can hear me okay.
Perfectly.
Okay. I was tired of London. And yes, sorry, Dr. Johnson, but I was tired of my life. Tired of crawling from one side of the city to the other, spending hours of the day in a variety of commutes, from walk, tube, walk, work, minibus stuck in traffic, to walk, tube, walk, new but frequently breaking down Docklands Light Railway, to walk, tube, walk, freezing cold boat on the Thames, not very Elizabeth I, more Anne Boleyn. I'd had a holiday in Turkey, a blissful week of sunshine, good food, wonderful scenery, interesting people, and more respect as a lone woman traveller from the Muslim men of that country than I usually received from many of the middle-aged male journalists I worked with. So I handed in my notice and planned a bigger holiday to India, which some friends often talked enthusiastically about. I would maybe head further east afterwards and end up in Hong Kong, where I was assured I'd soon land a good job if the money was running out. I'd also spotted a news story about an organisation called the Survival Club, which was planning the first rubbish clearing expedition to Everest Base Camp, increasingly messed up by climbers abandoning their waste there before embarking on the final push to the top of the mountain. I contacted the organisers, arranged to meet them in Kathmandu after my Indian trip, with the promise of providing media publicity. ITN lent me a small video camera and a contract to provide footage. But I didn't like India. As a woman travelling alone, I was often harassed and asked, "Where is your husband?" I hadn't met him yet, so I didn't know. I found it hard to decide on my policy towards beggars. Give something to everyone, but then the word got round and more appeared, trapping me in a crowd of outstretched hands and pitiful cries, or be the hard heart who ignores all. Neither was a solution. I spent a hard month in India, not a holiday. So I looked forward to Kathmandu, especially as I bumped into someone I knew from London but hadn't seen for a few years at the airport, and we had a few beers together. This seemed to bode well. I'd handed over my bag of trekking gear to one of the organisers in London, and he'd put it on the plane the rest of the group were travelling in. But it didn't arrive, and there wasn't time to chase and harangue the airline for the loss. Gone were my comfortable worn-in walking boots, my ex-army trekking trousers, and a variety of layers of clothes to cope with the increasing cold as we headed up to 5,360 metres and minus 20 degrees centigrade. I scoured the second-hand shops of Kathmandu for other people's boots, clothes and backpacks. We called them rucksacks in the 80s, by the way. Few of us had met before, and probably just as well. Students, civil servants, a solicitor, a shepherdess, many different types and temperaments who didn't all like each other. Cleaning up base camp was the easy part, getting there the challenge. Pain and pressure erupted into snapping and occasional screaming, but it never came to blows, only just. Kathmandu itself was a culture shock for some, with near medieval ways of life, goats' heads for sale, prayer wheels and kaftans not seen since the 60s, a street fight between a dog and a rat on a lead, the rat lost, sacrifices in the city of animals whose blood was sprinkled on buses and scooters, and on the wings of the twin otter planes flying us up 2,800 metres to Lukla, where our walk would begin. I thought my last moment had come when the plane headed straight for a cliff before swooping onto a sloping mountainside airstrip. When I opened my eyes, I was surprised and exhilarated to still be alive. A small army of Sherpas, porters and cooks looked after us, laughing at our bodies slowing down as we tried to adapt to high altitude and extreme cold. They sped up ahead of us in flip-flops or barefoot, some hanging back to assist the weak Westerners as they failed to keep up. One of our group was a doctor, kept busy administering to injuries and the severe headaches, nausea, dizziness and exhaustion of ASM, acute mountain sickness. If not dealt with either by going down the mountain or taking the right drugs within 24 hours, the result can be pulmonary and cerebral edema and death. As I succumbed to ASM, suffering from lack of oxygen and barely able to walk, Kathy, a former nurse, fed me glucose tablets, and ex-paratroopers Mike and Bob carried my day sack. Kevin, a Royal Navy submariner, walked behind to encourage and, if necessary, carry me. The night I suffered those headaches and nausea, I felt as if I no longer wanted to live. But the drugs worked their miracle overnight, and I woke up refreshed and amazed at their effect. There were also torn ligaments, chest infections, stomach bugs, and constant whinging. Not all of it from me. Other walkers we met were not so well looked after by their companions. A Belgian man suffering AMS was found abandoned and barely alive in his tent by doctors from the Himalayan Rescue Association. Sherpas carried a 16-stone Frenchman down the mountain on their backs, but he died. Our doctor, Sandy, had to deal with the corpse of an 80-year-old German man who had collapsed. Pushing your body to the limits also means respecting those limits and unaccustomed conditions. There were compensations, stunning snow-capped mountains, breathtaking views, and skies of changing light and colours, clouds twisting around the mountain tops. Even a nighttime trip to the open-air toilet had its rewards, as that was the most magnificent time to see moon, stars, the Milky Way, shooting stars close enough I felt I could touch them. There were tedious times too as we plodded along, conversations sometimes on the meaning of life and Kierkegaard. There was a philosophy research student in the group, but others on the increasing price of chocolate as we climbed to higher villages, and of course the state of our bowels. Half the group had volunteered to help a nutritionist by weighing and recording food input and urine output. There was a competition to see who had the most. Warmer clothes and thermal underwear did not come off for days. Washing was abandoned as soap and flannels froze solid. Table manners deteriorated in the battle to consume enough carbohydrates. Ice formed inside the flimsy tents. The only way I could maintain the video camera's batteries was to sleep with them inside my sleeping bag. Base camp was an ugly, rocky place resembling a city rubbish tip, unsuitable for camping. So we pitched our tents at Gorak Shep 200 meters lower and made daily cleaning trips. We filled bin liners with tin cans, cooking utensils, medical equipment. Some were taken down the mountain, some thrown into deep crevasses to be ground into dust. Paper and plastic were burnt. We thought we'd started something, but in the years since, I've read things have got as bad as ever or worse. Base camp has had to be closed because of too many trekkers and also earthquakes. The reincarnate Lama of Daingbochi, a Buddhist monastery on the Everest route, said, "Each place has its own God. The power of the God causes the energy in the earth, the fertility and the flow of water to flow in harmony with the needs of man. If we go on the mountain and make it dirty with foul smells, the God may be offended and eventually will leave, upsetting the balance of energies in the land. And today, as we suffer the effects of a lethal virus, what have we done this time to upset the balance of energies? Will we ever find out?"